Okay, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into presentation skills.
Awesome.
Um,
Huh.
and we've got this really cool material that we're going to be looking at from Oxford Online English and English Voice Club.
That's right.
And it's got a lot of practical tips and phrases,
Yeah.
um,
Like
um,
really practical.
really practical.
Yeah, you can just take it and use it straight away.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's so valuable about this material
Yeah.
is that it's not just theory.
Totally.
It's like, here's how you actually do this.
It's a gold mine, really.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting about it is this idea that it's not just about the audience sort of passively listening to your presentation.
Right.
It's about you as the speaker creating an experience
Yeah.
and drawing them in.
And I think that's such a key point because
Definitely.
we can have the most brilliant content in the world,
Yeah.
but if we don't deliver it in a way that's engaging
Totally.
and connects with the audience,
You got it.
then it's going to fall flat. So one of the things that the material talks about is this concept of framing.
Yes.
And it's basically like setting the stage, right?
Setting the context.
Creating that context and making it clear
Exactly.
why the audience should care.
Totally.
So let's say, for example, we're giving a presentation on,
Okay.
I don't know, quality control,
Yeah.
which can sound kind of dry.
It can, a little bit, yeah.
How could we frame that in a way that makes it relevant?
So they give a really nice example of a simple one-liner.
Okay.
You could say something like, I'd like to talk to you today about quality control and why we're all responsible for it, whichever department you work in.
Right. So you're immediately addressing that like,
That's exactly.
why should I care question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're also sort of slightly
Yeah.
overlapping with different departments.
Connecting it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about if we're dealing with something that's a little bit more complex, like, say, HR policies?
Right. So for something like that, which might need a slightly longer explanation.
Yeah. They suggest a multi-stage introduction.
Okay.
So you could say something like this. I'll begin by outlining the policies, then highlight what they mean for you and your working habits. Finally, we'll briefly discuss why these new policies are necessary and beneficial for us all.
I like that
Yeah.
because it's like you're giving the audience a roadmap so they know where you're going.
You got it.
And it kind of reminds me of this concept of signposting,
Yeah,
which the material talks about quite a bit.
absolutely. Signposting is crucial.
Yeah.
It's like those clear chapter headings
Yeah.
in a well-organized book.
Right.
It just helps your audience follow along.
And even if they zone out for a minute or two, they can kind of get
Exactly.
back on track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, we've all done that.
You all do it.
Yeah.
So what are some effective signposting phrases?
Okay, so to move to a new point, you could say something like, now let's shift gears and explore.
Okay.
Or, next I'd like to dive into...
I like that.
Yeah.
If you want to add detail, you might say, let me unpack this a bit further.
Okay.
Or let's zoom in and examine this more closely.
Ooh, zoom in.
Yeah.
I like that.
And to signal your conclusion, something like, to wrap up, let's remind ourselves why this matters. Or let's circle back to the key takeaway.
Okay, so these phrases are like those little arrows and bullet points that help us navigate a website.
Absolutely.
They make the whole presentation flow smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about framing. We've talked about signposting.
Okay.
Now let's talk about how to start strong.
Yeah.
Because the material really emphasizes the importance of hooking your audience from the get-go.
Absolutely.
And it's not about like forcing them to listen.
Right.
It's about making them want to listen.
Exactly.
So one technique that they suggest is tapping into a shared problem
Okay.
that the audience faces. So for example, you could say something like,
Yeah.
have you ever felt completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of emails you get every day?
Yeah. That's a good one.
Right.
Because everybody has.
Everyone's nodding along.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel that pain.
And it's that instant relatability.
Yes.
Like, I'm one of you. I get it.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes we want to kind of shake things up a bit.
Yeah.
Hit them with something surprising.
Yeah, like a little shock to the system.
Totally. And in that case, hitting them with a startling fact or statistic
Okay.
can be really effective.
Give me an example.
Okay, so you could say, did you know that the average person spends over 2 hours a day just checking email?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me want to hear more.
Exactly.
All right. I'm also a big fan of storytelling.
Okay.
And the material mentions that is a really powerful technique for hooking the audience.
Yeah, stories are just naturally engaging. They
Yeah.
tap into our emotions.
They draw you in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, of all these techniques,
Yeah.
tapping into a shared problem,
Right.
hitting them with a startling fact, or telling a captivating story,
Okay.
Which one resonates most with you?
That's a tough one.
I know, right?
I think for me personally, I'm drawn to storytelling.
Okay.
It's such a natural way to connect with people,
Yeah.
to make them feel something.
Yeah.
But, you know, a well-placed, startling fact
Yeah.
can be really effective
Oh, for sure.
in jolting the audience awake
Yeah.
and making them pay attention.
So it depends on the situation.
Exactly. It really depends on the context.
Yeah.
The content, the overall vibe.
The vibe.
Yeah. So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's about finding the right tool for the job.
And using it in a way that feels authentic to you.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered framing, we've covered signposting,
Yeah.
we've talked about hooking the audience.
Okay.
Now let's talk about what happens when things don't go perfectly.
Okay.
Because let's be real, no matter how much we prepare,
Right.
sometimes we stumble, we forget a word, we get hit with a tough question.
It happened.
It happens.
Yeah.
And the material actually has some really helpful advice on how to handle those unexpected moments.
It does, yeah. They acknowledge that it's part of the reality of presenting,
Yeah.
but the key is to just stay calm and
Yeah.
have strategies in place to kind of navigate those challenges.
So let's start with the dreaded brain fart.
Okay.
We've all been there. Our mind goes blank,
Uh-huh.
and that crucial word just vanishes into thin air.
Totally.
What are some ways to recover gracefully?
Okay, so one thing they suggest is using filler phrases
Okay.
to buy yourself a few seconds.
Okay.
So you could say something like, let me rephrase that, or to put it another way.
So it's better than just standing there frozen,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything is better than just,
like a deer in headlights.
yeah.
I think cue cards can be helpful too.
Absolutely.
Right.
You shouldn't rely on them entirely,
Yeah.
but having a few key points jotted down
Yeah, just in case.
can be a lifesaver
Yeah.
in those moments.
Okay, so what about those moments where you realize you messed up?
All right.
Like you forgot to mention something important or you didn't explain something clearly.
Right.
How can we correct ourselves without sounding flustered or losing credibility?
Yeah, they actually recommend specific phrases for that.
Okay.
So you could say something like, actually, let me add to that.
Okay.
Or let me clarify what I meant by,
So it's almost like a verbal rewind button,
yeah,
but done in a smooth and professional way.
exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about those curveball questions.
Right.
The ones that just throw you off guard or seem to come out of left field.
Yeah.
How do we handle those with grace and confidence?
So they give this brilliant breakdown of tough questions
Okay.
into what they call the 3Ds.
The 3Ds.
Delay, deflect, and dismiss.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, break it down for me.
Okay, so first up, we've got delay.
Delay.
So when you need a moment to gather your thoughts,
Okay.
or you want to address the question later on,
Right.
you can say something like, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch on that in just a few minutes when we get to it. Or if you truly need more time, you could say, I don't have that specific information on hand, but I'd be happy to follow up with you after the presentation.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have deflect.
Deflect.
What does that entail?
So deflecting can be a great way to make the presentation more interactive
Okay,
or to tap into the collective wisdom of the room.
I like that.
Yeah, so you could say something like, that's an interesting perspective. What are other thoughts on this? Or before I answer, I'd love to hear from some of you. What are your initial reactions to this point?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it kind of shifts the focus.
Yeah, it makes it more of a conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's be real.
Okay.
Sometimes we get those questions that are totally irrelevant
Right.
or just way off topic.
Yeah.
How do we handle those without being rude or dismissive?
Okay, so that's where dismiss comes in.
Dismiss.
And it should always be done politely and respectfully. So they suggest phrases like, thank you for your question, but I'm afraid that's outside the scope of today's discussion.
Okay.
Or, while that's an interesting point I'd like to keep our focus on.
So you're maintaining control of the conversation,
Exactly.
but still acknowledging the person who asked the question.
yeah,
Just talk
totally.
about it like that.
It's all about being assertive, but not aggressive.
Right.
And honestly, these techniques are not just for presentations.
That's true.
They can be helpful in all sorts of professional interactions.
Yeah, it's like a toolbox for effective communication,
Exactly.
whether you're on stage in a meeting or just having a conversation with a colleague.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground here in part one.
We have.
Introductions, framing, signposting, hooking the audience, and even how to gracefully handle those unexpected moments.
Yeah.
What stands out to you so far?
Honestly, what really strikes me is how intentional we can be with every aspect of a presentation.
Yeah.
It's not just about winging it.
Yeah.
It's about making conscious choices to create an experience
Yes.
that's both informative and engaging for the audience.
You got it.
Welcome back to our deep dive on presentation skills.
I'm so excited for part 2.
Me too.
In part 1, we focused a lot on the verbal side of things.
Right, the words.
The words, yeah. Like what to say,
Yeah.
how to frame things.
And we got some really good tips.
We did, yeah.
Like those 3Ds for handling tough questions.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
I love that.
But you hinted at the end of part 1
Mm-hmm.
that there's this whole other world to explore.
Yeah.
The nonverbal cues.
The nonverbals.
And I gotta say,
Yeah.
I've always wondered how much they really matter.
Oh, they matter a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Think about it. How often have you kind of zoned out
Oh, yeah.
during a presentation because the speaker was monotone
All the time.
or just staring at their slides?
Yeah, it's like they're not even in the room with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a missed opportunity
Yeah.
to really connect.
Yeah,
Whereas when someone makes eye contact with you,
right.
you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel like
Yeah,
they actually care.
like they're talking to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so eye contact is a big one.
Huge.
But how do we do it right?
So it's not about sort of laser focus on one person.
Right.
It's more like, imagine you're having a conversation with a few friends.
Okay.
You naturally kind of shift your gaze between them.
Right.
So in a presentation, think about making eye contact
Yeah.
with different sections of the audience.
Okay, like move your gaze around the room.
Exactly.
So it's more about creating a sense of inclusion.
Totally.
Like
Everyone's part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about kind of connecting with the audience,
Yeah.
let's move on to body language.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how a speaker's posture
Oh, yeah.
can make them seem either super confident or totally unsure of themselves?
I remember this one presentation where the speaker was just hunched over the podium.
Yeah. And it was just like,
It's hard to take them seriously.
I could, even
Yeah.
if what they were saying was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like their body language is just saying, I don't believe in myself.
Exactly.
So what should we be doing instead?
So standing tall,
Okay.
shoulders relaxed, head up,
Okay.
sends this really strong signal.
Like you own the space.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that you believe in what you're saying.
So it's like fake it till you make it, but with posture.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
And even if you are feeling nervous,
Right.
standing tall can actually help you feel more confident.
Okay. Interesting.
And of course, it projects that confidence
To the audience.
to the audience.
Okay. So posture is key.
Yeah.
What about hand gestures?
Hand gestures can be great.
Okay.
They can bring a lot of energy and clarity.
Yeah.
But I've seen some speakers kind of go overboard.
Oh, yeah.
It gets distracting.
It's very distracting.
Yeah, so how do we use them effectively?
So the key is to be purposeful. Your hand gestures should enhance what you're saying, not steal the show.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think of it like punctuation
Okay.
in writing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like,
So like a well-placed gesture
yeah.
can emphasize a point, just like an exclamation mark.
Okay. So instead of like wildly waving my arms around,
Right.
it should be more about like punctuating
Exact
my
stuff.
message.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, so moving on from that,
Okay.
let's talk about visual aids.
Okay.
So slides, images, props, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Because visuals can really bring your presentation to life.
Absolutely.
But I feel like there's a fine line between using them effectively
Yeah.
and it becoming like a distraction.
Too much of a good thing.
Yeah, totally.
So the source material really emphasizes
Okay.
keeping your slides clear, concise, and visually appealing.
Yeah.
And definitely avoid overwhelming the audience
Yeah.
with too much text.
Oh my gosh, I hate those slides where you have to like
Yeah.
squint to read
Tiny font.
the tiny font. Yeah, and by the time you figure out what it says,
They've moved on.
they've moved on.
Yeah,
Oof, so frustrating.
totally.
So quality over quantity
Absolutely.
when it comes to slides.
Yes.
What about images?
Images are fantastic,
Okay,
especially if you want to connect with the audience
Yeah.
on a more emotional level.
right, because a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a well-chosen image
Yeah.
can evoke emotions,
Uh-huh.
tell stories, and even make kind of abstract concepts
Yeah.
more concrete.
Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine you're giving a presentation on the importance of teamwork.
Okay.
You could show a really powerful image of a mountain climbing team
Okay, yeah.
working together to reach the summit.
Yeah.
And it instantly conveys the message.
Without needing a lot of words.
Exact.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
What about props?
Props can be fun.
Okay.
They can add a touch of interactivity and surprise,
Yeah.
especially if they tie into your message in a clever way.
Give me an example.
Okay, so I once saw a speaker use a Rubik's Cube
Cool.
to illustrate a complex problem-solving process.
Ooh,
Yeah. It was brilliant.
I love that.
So there's lots you can do with props.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got eye contact, body language, visual aids.
Is there anything else?
Well, there's one more thing I want to touch on.
Okay.
And it's something that the source material kind of hints at,
Uh-huh.
but I think deserves more attention.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And that's this idea of authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think I mean by that?
When you say authenticity,
In terms of presentations.
in terms of presentations.
It's about being yourself,
Okay.
letting your personality shine through,
Yeah.
finding a style that feels genuine to you.
So not trying to be someone we're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you're authentic,
Uh-huh.
it comes across as passion, as conviction.
Yeah.
And that's what really captivates an audience.
So it's about finding our own unique way of presenting.
That feels natural and comfortable.
Exactly, because some people are naturally more animated.
Yeah.
Others are more subdued.
Yeah. But the key is to kind of find what works for you
Right.
and use these nonverbal cues in a way that feels congruent with your personality.
Like an extension of who you are.
Exactly, because when you're comfortable
Yeah.
and confident,
Yeah.
the audience will feel that too.
They pick up on that energy.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together,
Yeah.
the nonverbal,
Uh-huh.
to create a really impactful presentation.
Totally.
But I have a question. How does all this tie into the idea of credibility?
That's a great question.
Because that's important too, right?
It's huge.
Yeah.
So credibility is all about trust and believability,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And our nonverbal cues
Yeah.
play a massive role
Through
in
there.
how we're perceived
Yeah.
by the audience. So,
Uh,
for example, good eye contact
Right.
conveys sincerity and confidence.
It shows you believe in what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if we're avoiding eye contact, if
Yeah.
we're slouching, if we're fidgeting,
Yeah.
it can make us seem nervous,
Yeah.
unprepared, or even dishonest.
It's like if you don't look like you believe in what you're saying,
Yeah.
why should I believe you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just our bodies,
Oh.
it's our visual aids as well.
Right.
So well-designed slides enhance our credibility.
Yeah.
Cluttered, confusing slides
Yeah.
can actually make us look less competent.
It's like the difference between showing up to a meeting
Yeah.
in a wrinkled suit versus a sharp tailored one.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this section,
Okay.
our nonverbal cues are not just icing on the cake.
Right.
They are essential ingredients
Yeah.
in a successful presentation.
They work together with our words to create that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we're starting to see the big picture here.
Yeah.
It's not just about the content.
Right.
It's about the delivery, the connection.
The overall experience,
experience.
we create for the audience.
Okay, so as we move on to part 3,
Yes.
what are we going to be talking about?
We're going to be pulling all these threads together
Okay.
and exploring some final thoughts and takeaways
Well, I like it.
that will hopefully help you
Yeah.
nail your next presentation,
Okay.
no matter what the topic.
So stay tuned. Okay, welcome back for the final part of our presentation deep dive.
I'm excited.
Me too.
To wrap it all up.
Yeah, I feel like my brain is buzzing with all these tips and techniques.
I know, me too. It's so
I
much
mean-
to think about.
It is. It's like I'm seeing presentations in a whole new light now.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just about the content.
Right.
It's about the delivery, the connection.
It's an art form.
It's an art form.
Yeah.
I love that. So as I was kind of revisiting the source material,
Yeah.
I noticed something interesting.
Okay, what's that?
It didn't explicitly lay out a step-by-step formula.
Right.
But if we connect the dots.
There's this clear pattern that emerges.
Okay.
It's like a roadmap to presentation success.
I like that. A roadmap. Okay, so where does this journey begin?
It all starts with your destination.
Okay.
So before you even think about slides or introductions,
Right.
you have to define your purpose.
Yeah.
What do you want your audience to walk away with?
Yeah, what's the goal?
What's the goal? What knowledge, feeling, or action are you hoping to inspire?
It's so important to start with that. Why?
Yeah, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
You got it.
but you might end up lost and confused.
And your audience, too.
And your audience, yeah. So once you have that destination in mind,
Right.
you can chart the course.
Yeah.
And that's where all those techniques we talked about come into play.
Exactly.
The killer intro, the signposts,
Yeah.
the visuals, the body language, it all works together
It all fits together.
to guide the audience towards that destination
And create that
and
experience.
create that experience.
Yeah.
It's not just about delivering information.
Right. Yeah.
It's about creating an experience for the audience.
You got it.
And one thing that the source material really emphasized, which I
Yeah.
think is so crucial,
Yeah.
is being prepared for detours.
Detours.
Because let's be real,
Yeah.
presentations rarely go perfectly according to plan.
That's true.
What happens when you hit a roadblock? You forget a word.
Right.
You get thrown a curveball question.
That's where those 3Ds come in.
The 3Ds
Slay, dismiss.
are trusty navigation tools for handling the unexpected.
Exactly.
It's about being adaptable,
Yeah.
thinking on your feet,
Uh-huh.
maintaining your composure,
Totally.
even when things go a little off script,
Because they will.
because they will. It happens to all of us.
It does.
And I think how we handle those moments
Yeah.
says a lot about our professionalism and our expertise.
It does.
Right? It's like we can't control everything,
Right.
but we can control how we react.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of things we can control,
Yes.
let's talk about practice.
Oh, the P word.
The P word. Because the source material repeatedly stresses that practice is key.
It is.
And not just for memorizing your content,
Yeah.
but for refining your delivery,
Mhm.
your timing, your nonverbal cues, everything.
All of it.
It makes sense,
Yeah.
right? It's like anything else we want to get good at.
Totally.
It's like sports cooking.
The more you do it.
The more we practice, the more confident and polished we become.
Exactly.
And here's a thought practice. It doesn't have to be a solo mission.
Oh.
Enlist a friend or colleague to be your audience.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Get some feedback.
Get some feedback because their feedback can help you
Yeah.
smooth out those rough edges and identify areas where you can be even more engaging.
Totally.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone who's feeling anxious
Okay.
or intimidated by the thought of giving a presentation?
I think the best antidote to presentation anxiety
Okay.
is to connect with your why. Remember why you're giving this presentation.
Yeah. Okay.
What message you're passionate about sharing.
Yeah.
When you tap into that deeper purpose, it can help calm those nerves
Okay.
and infuse your presentation with authenticity and energy.
So it's like you're not just delivering information.
Right.
You're sharing a part of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Your passion, your insights.
And people can feel that.
It makes all the difference.
It does.
And even the most seasoned presenters get butterflies sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
It's normal.
It's totally normal.
Right. But by focusing on our message, our audience, our why,
Yeah.
we can transform those nerves into positive energy.
You got it.
It's like that feeling you get before a big performance.
Totally.
That excitement, the adrenaline.
It can fuel you.
It can fuel you, yeah.
Yeah.
So as we close out our presentation deep dive,
Yes.
I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
You have a unique perspective to offer.
Uh-huh.
You have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Embrace it, practice it,
Yeah.
and share it with confidence.
Because the world needs your ideas.
The world needs your ideas.
So go forth and present
Go forth and present.
with clarity, conviction.
Yes.
And that spark of passion.
And that spark,
That makes you you.
that makes you you. So until next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep sharing your brilliance with the world.
Thanks for joining us.